Welcome to another session view hack in Ableton Live. And this workflow hack has to do with overdubbing MIDI notes in MIDI clips in the session view. And so to demonstrate this, I've got a simple project here with a drum beat and a chord progression I wrote in using a simple little instrument rack I put together for this lesson. And I'll extend the MIDI clip here so we can see what's going on. I'll also just use the fold button, which is going to show us only the MIDI notes I've recorded in. You can see the chord progression I have here. And what I'd like to do is add some sort of top line or add some additional notes to this chord progression. Now, stop the playback for a sec. Now I could of course go into the MIDI clip and use my pencil tool or pointer tool and add in some notes manually. But personally, I think it's a lot more fun to actually play notes in over the top. And if we use this session record button up here at the, don't want to trigger it yet, but if we use the session record button up here at the very top of the screen, along with arming the MIDI track, what we'll be able to do is add new notes into the MIDI clip as we play them back, as opposed to having it overwrite the notes that are already there. So in other words, all the notes that are there, all the chords are going to stay in place. Any notes we play in will just be added to this MIDI clip. And so again, this is a great way to come up with top lines if you have a chord progression, or if you want to add notes to a chord, maybe make it a little bit more complex. This is a great way to do it. So let's just go through the workflow really quickly. Let me stop all clips. Again, I want to make sure that this MIDI track that I'm going to be playing on is record armed. That way when we engage session record, it's going to know that I'm going to be recording onto the selected clip on this track. So let's play our drum beat back. Let's play the chord progression back first, just so we have everything playing. Then we'll trigger session record. I'll extend the clip view here so we can see some of those, the notes added in as we use the session record. So as I turn the session record on, you notice the playhead on the clip turns red. It's ready for me to play in some new notes. So let's play around and see what we come up with. 2, 3, 4. I'm going to turn session record off, and you can see how those notes have just quickly been added right into the same MIDI clip without overwriting or deleting any of the notes that were previously there. Now another thing we can do, this is another quick tip regarding recording MIDI notes into the session view, is let's duplicate this clip. So I'm going to click on it, press Command D just to make a copy of it right below. Let's just get rid of the notes that I just played in, the top line. Because another thing I sometimes like to do is when I lay down a basic chord progression, I may want to add notes to the chord. And I'm not the best keys player on the planet, so sometimes it's a little bit tough for me to know exactly what chords I'm going to play in and time them with the chords that are already laid out in the MIDI clip. So another little trick that we have available to us is called, it's called step recording. And in order for this to work, we have to select a MIDI clip. So we'll select this second clip, stop everything. And we also need to turn on this blue headphone button. This is called the preview button. That's going to allow you to hear notes if you click on the MIDI keyboard along the piano roll. And also when we plug in MIDI notes into the clip, we'll be able to hear those notes as well. But we need to have that on in order for this function to work. So once we've done that, we can click anywhere on the session view grid, and notice how I'm creating, or I'm dropping this orange playhead marker. That's where the notes that I want to add into my chord are going to start being created. So let's start right at the beginning of the very first chord progression here. And if I just hold a couple of notes on my MIDI keyboard, so let me just see the notes I've got playing right now. So let's take these two, what do we have here? This G sharp and this D sharp. Let's just add those to the top of this first chord. So if I hold those notes down on my MIDI keyboard, now what I'm going to do is use the right arrow key on my computer keyboard, and I'm just using the right arrow key, I'm tapping it, and notice how it's just extending the length of the note by 1 bar division here, or actually it's an 1/8 note division, I should say. And that's going to be based on whatever your grid resolution is down here in the lower right-hand corner of the screen. So just by using the right arrow key and holding the notes down, I can plug notes right in. And now we can actually take a listen. Let's just audition this first chord. We'll start from the top of the clip. Maybe here we'll start at bar 2. I'm going to hold down the notes on my MIDI controller, and then we'll use the right arrow key to extend the note out. And then perhaps here at 2.3, where I've currently got the playhead, we'll add in a few more notes. And I'll probably go through and continue on with this clip and add some more notes to make my chords a little bit more full, a little bit more rich. But this is a great way to just add in new notes when maybe you're not too proficient at playing keys, you're having a little trouble timing out, getting your fingers in all the right places to hit all the right keys. This is a great way to add notes to chords and make things a little bit more musically complex and a little bit more pleasing to the ear, so to speak. So anyway, I hope these tips have been helpful to you, and stay tuned for the next one.